Welcome to today's second Saturday coaching session, all about the Common Application. Today, we're going to really dig in more workshop style than in previous times about the actual college application itself. So let's get started. First of all, there's a couple different kinds of applications that you're going to see in your college career, your college application career. And I broke them down into a couple of different categories. And which ones you do, which ones you'll have to complete will really depend on the colleges that are on your list. So there's a couple different types. The first is the multi-college platform. And that includes things like the Common Application, which we're going to dig into today, and the Coalition Application. There are independent college applications. Georgetown, for example, Northern Arizona University, they have their own platforms, their own applications, and you reach those by going to the website. And then there are state-specific applications. A couple of good examples of those are the University of California application and the Cal State Apply, which is for the California State University system. Apply Texas is another example of a college, a state-specific application. Multi-college platforms have a couple of different components. So the first section is the general student information. It's all the details about you, the student, your family, your person, your education, all of that. And then the second section is information that's specific to each college that you want to submit to. That can get a little confusing. So we're going to look at that when we actually look at the application itself today. It's important to know that the answers that you complete in the section 2, the specific information for each college, only go to that college. So just keep that in mind as you're completing the application. Even in the University of California system application, there are some college-specific questions depending on the college that you add. So for example, if you apply to the University of California, San Diego, as part of the application, they're going to ask you to pick a residential college, which is a community in which you would live at the University of San Diego. Some colleges also in the UC system want you to set a major, choose a major, or as well choose a second major. So how do you know which application you're going to be asked to fill out? So if you go into your portal, what College Made Clear account, when you see the college's name, you're going to see some icons next to it. One is the Common App, that's that square, it's maroon in color, and then the Coalition is identified by that C that's kind of sitting on its side a little bit. If there isn't anything next to that, the name of the school, it probably takes its own independent application, or it's part of a larger state-specific application group. The other thing you can do to find out which application you complete is by going to college's website. You go to the college website, and you know sometimes how those can be confusing, but almost all of them will have an apply section. And in the apply section, it'll tell you which application that you need to fill out. So let's talk about dates and deadlines. So even though the Common Application or these multi-college applications are just one platform, they often will have different deadlines based on the colleges. So let's go through those a little bit. Right now, the Common Application and the Coalition Application are wide open. You can go ahead and start the section 1, the student-focused information right now if you want. In fact, that's what we're going to do today. The applications don't officially go into application season until the 1st of August. And so you'll go through what's called a rollover process. It sounds complicated. It's not. It just means we're going to take your information that you enter now, and you're going to confirm that that's still the information you want to have as you go forward into the application season starting August 1st. Why do they roll it over? Well, it gives them a chance to change up some of the questions. And I was in a webinar this week where they talked about the changes to some of the questions that they're going to have. So I'm going to show you the current version of the Common Application, but just know that there are going to be some minor adjustments. Won't look completely different to you, but you might think, oh, that was a question I thought I saw on Anne's screen and it's not there anymore. Don't worry about it. They talk to their member colleges as well as students to find out how they might make changes to make the application process a little bit easier. Okay, within the Common and Coalition applications, you submit each college separately based on their deadlines. So you might submit one application one day, then go back into the Common application on your own specific information and make some changes, and then resubmit to another school. Those two schools are going to get completely different information from you. So what you submit the day you submit it is what goes. It's not a dynamic application. It doesn't update for those colleges once you've submitted. The University of California application that a lot of you are going to fill out opens the 1st of August, so you can't go in now and start working on it. And you will submit it anywhere between the 1st of November and the 30th. My suggestion is that you always give yourselves at least a couple of days buffer before that. For those of you who are doing Apply Texas, that opens July 1st, and different campuses have different deadlines. The Cal State Apply opens October 1st and is due by the 30th of November. So let's get started on getting our Common application going. So that's where we're going to start today, because we know it's open. It's the most common application that most students are going to be using for most of their colleges. So it makes sense. Those of you who are watching this on the recording, you're going to create a Common App right now. Yes, do it now. Pause, because I will be happy to wait for you, but it'll make much more sense to you if you create an account now and then follow along as we're working through. So there's a link there on the video, but you can also show put your camera against that QR code and go to the link. The other option would be to go to commonapp.org and follow the instructions, of course, in a separate window. So while you're doing that, I'm going to play a quick video to show you the information that you'll need to know about starting the application.
Hi, it's Stephanie from Common App. Let's take a look at how you can create a first-year Common App account. To create a first-year Common App account, use the Create Account button on commonapp.org. First, you're asked what kind of account you want to create. You can use the information icon to learn more about each type of account. For this video, we're going to create a first-year student account. First, you'll enter your email address and choose a password. Make sure to choose an email you check often. This email is how Common App and colleges you're applying to will get in touch with you. You'll also use this email to log into your account each time. Next, you'll enter your name, phone number, and date of birth. Be sure to use your legal name as it appears on official documents. This will help colleges to match documents with the correct applicant. Then, use the Add Address button to enter your address. First, select the country, and then type in your address. Select your address from the results given. If you don't see your address in the list, you can enter the correct information manually. Next, you're asked if you are currently based in a European Union country and when you plan to start college. Finally, you'll review and affirm some statements in the Common App privacy policy. Please take some time to carefully read and check the affirmation before continuing. When you're ready, use the Create Account button to complete the process. And that's it. Now that you understand how to create a Common App account, you're ready to get started.
Okie doke. So now you've created your Common App account. I'm going to show you a practice account. This is my account. This is what your account should look like. And we're just going to walk through some of the components inside it really quickly. And then we're going to dig into that section 1, the student-oriented part of the application. So the first thing you're going to see is the dashboard. The dashboard is, it keeps all your information organized. It's where all of your colleges live once you add colleges, which we're going to do in a second. The My Colleges tab is your list of colleges. It is where everything happens in terms of all the specific college information. We'll go through that in a minute too. But where you're going to spend most of your time is on the Common App tab. This is that section 1. This is all of your personal information that will go to every single college. And it's the actual application. So when I think about Common App, this is what I'm talking about, this tab in the Common Application. So we're just going to walk through the sections. First, you're going to have profile, then family, education, testing, activities, writing. We'll touch on courses and grades, but not a lot of you are going to need to worry about that. So profile, it includes your personal information, and I've put in some dummy information here to give you an idea of how this looks. And it's literally just going to be fill it out. It's not really brain surgery or difficult in any way. They do have gender identity questions if you want to work through those. They'll ask you for your address. They will ask you for how to reach you. They want to know if you have a home phone or a mobile phone. I highly recommend connecting your mobile phone to this because that's the way colleges are going to be able to reach you. And if you don't check your email regularly, this would be a really good thing to do. They also want to be able to know your demographics. Some of this is going to change, but it's generally race and gender type information. Then there's going to be geography. What languages do you speak? This is a great opportunity for you to tell them if you read, write, or speak any other languages with any real proficiency. They're going to ask you about your citizenship. And then they're going to, and in citizenship, you want to make sure that you put in your social security number. Why? Well, in order for you to be matched with FAFSA, which is the free application for federal student aid, you need to have your social security number in here, and you can't do it later. It has to go with the application each time. And you might say, well, my parents have plenty of money. We're not planning on financial aid. To get merit aid at some colleges, you're required to fill out the FAFSA. So do yourself a favor, give yourself every opportunity and go ahead and complete this. So the last one is the Common App fee waiver. This is for students who are low income or might be getting free lunch. And if that applies to you, then you would fill out the waiver. If not, then you move on to family. So let's take a look at the family section. By the way, notice that there on some questions is a red asterisk, but not all of them. So think carefully before you answer every single question that's there. Make sure it's something that you feel like they ought to know, because the Common Application serves two purposes. The first is to apply to colleges. The second is to gather student information, whether it's for further solicitations or to feedback to the Common App folks or to do information that they want to know about who applied. You're feeding their database. So think about it carefully. There is not going to be a penalty if you don't fill out a question that has that does not have an asterisk next to it. Okay, next section, family. This is mom and dad. You get to do parents separately, and you also will have the chance to do a step parent if you have a step parent. And also sibling information is here as well. Again, fairly simple, fairly straightforward, not probably going to have a lot of questions about how this works. Let's move on to education. So you are going to put in your current high school. If you had more than one school, you start with the one that you're at now. And don't worry about having to come up with this CEEB code, because it will come up through the search. You're going to be asked to, when you enter this, obviously this one's already been filled out, but you're going to be asked to enter that and it will all be there. Then it's going to ask a little bit of information about your time at this particular school. They'll ask about whether you've been to other schools, whether you have engaged in college courses already. They'll want to know that information. And then there's grades. So some students get confused about this. This isn't actually what your grades are, because those are going to come in a transcript. This is how big is your graduating class, is rank reported, and what's the scale, and is the GPA weighted or unweighted. If your school weights its GPA, then you put in your weighted GPA. If you have any questions about this, you'll just reach out to me and ask. And it might be that your class doesn't rank, but the best place to look for that is on your transcript. It will probably say on there either no ranking at this school, or it'll give you your rank. And if your rank is 28 out of 353, then you know that that ranking is exact. Anyhow, and notice However, that all of these questions do not have red asterisks, and might be a good thing to just wait to fill this out until you have your final junior year grades, or depending on when you're going to submit, you could wait till you have your first semester senior year grades. Or you could just decide not to fill it out at all, because they'll have this information when they get your transcripts. Okay, then you're going to fill out current or most recent year courses. Again, this confuses some students. This is, now you're filling it out as students who've just finished junior year, but this would be where you put your senior year courses. Why? Why? Is that my most recent year? I'm not a senior yet. Here's the reasoning. When you submit this application, you will not have finished probably first semester of senior year yet. So the transcript that will be sent for you has your 9th, 10th, and 11th grade courses and grades on it. It's not going to have any senior year stuff. It's just going to have those completed semesters. So the colleges need to know what you're taking currently, because they take that into consideration in their decision making. And before you're officially given admission, they want to make sure that they see your grades for those both the first and second semester of those classes. But they want to see what you've chosen. This is where you do that. And then these last 3 sections are honors, community-based organizations, and future plans. So honors is where you could put any academic awards you've received. Community-based organization are those organizations that have helped you with your application, and those are usually nonprofit. So College Made Clear does not go here. You likely will just leave this blank. And well, if you've done AVID, that probably counts as community-based organization. And then future plans, they want to know what you're going to major in and what you want to, what level degree you want to get. Obviously, this one here is a mandatory question, and so is this one. So do your best to figure out what it is that you might plan to do in the future. Okay, moving on to testing. So for most of you, we've talked about test optional admissions, and those colleges will offer those test optional admissions separately from here. My recommendation is that you don't ever put in your test scores into this section. Why? It's because for a couple of reasons. Number one, your best score might change based on a future test that you're planning on taking. And then you'll have to remember to go back in here and change it. The second is you might not want every college to see this particular information. So I wouldn't include it. And the third reason is this information isn't an official report of your test scores to a college. This is just you putting your data in, and it might go to the colleges, but they don't consider it the official true report of your test scores. You have to send your test scores directly to the college for the official reporting of your scores. So I think it's easier and less confusing just to not include any test information here at all, leave it blank and move on. And then college by college, decide whether you're going to go test optional or submit your scores, and submit your scores separately directly to the colleges. Again, if you have questions, reach out. So we're going to move on to activities. And activities is probably the place you will spend the most time. And you and I will spend a lot of time going back and forth with this, because it's a huge opportunity for you to explain your impact in your activities, not just list them. So this has changed over the last couple of years, but the basics are still the same. You are able to list 10 separate activities. You might need to group some based on what it is that you've done. And you don't have to list 10, you can list 5. The order in which you list them is pretty key, because when the colleges take a look at your application, they don't have a lot of time and they may just skim over it. So make sure as you're doing this that you put the very most important, the ones you've spent the most time on, the ones that mean the most to you, at the top of the list. Don't worry as you're entering them, because you can always move around the order as you go. So, but that's a good rule of thumb, is to think about it that way. The drop downs will differ based on what it is that you're reporting. And by the way, if you are working, that counts as an activity. If you're self-taught in something, that counts as an activity. If you are an avid hobbyist or game player, or you do woodworking in your spare time, or you're big into a specific family of video games, we should talk about including those and how to write about them, because we want colleges to know your rich and deep extracurricular experience outside of school. That's what this is for. So it's pretty self-explanatory here how it works. But here's a couple of things to notice. So this is somebody who's written up that they play basketball. You don't need to do full sentences for this, but I want you to take advantage of a couple of things. One is the leadership description is 50 words. So jam this full of as much explanation as you possibly can. And then you have 100 words to give an organization's name. Now, in this case, the Vintage High School women's basketball team, we didn't need to put that because we'd also already put that there was varsity women's basketball here. But if it's an organization that might not be known by everyone, then use those 100 characters to describe the organization's mission as well as provide its name. And you'll see that as you go. And then this description of your activity, including what you accomplished and any recognition you received, is 150 characters. That's going to feel tight, especially if you are somebody that's trying to write in full sentences. But try to maximize this real estate. And again, we will probably go over this 2 or 3 times to make sure that you've written exactly what you want in this particular space. You can also go back to your resume and look at the things you've written about the activities in your resume to give yourself a hint about what to do. So in this particular case, there's going to be a lot of back and forth between us because this really matters, and it's a pretty massive section of the application in comparison to sort of the data-driven other student information. So the other big piece that I'm sure you're thinking about already is the writing section. So that's here. And what you'll see is they have the personal essay portion, which we're starting to work on now, your disciplinary history, which actually is going to be going away in most cases. This will probably be a question that's asked in the college specific section. And then additional information. So we've talked about this a little bit in our one-on-one meetings, but there are 2 pieces to the additional information. The first is a COVID impact statement. This is where you talk about what has school been like for you and what has life been like for you for COVID. What has school looked like for you? What have you missed out on? What have you learned? Because we want colleges to know that. Plus, colleges don't want everybody's personal essays to be COVID related. So they're giving you this place to sort of dump your information. And then at the second half, it's you may use this space to provide any other additional information. We've talked a little bit about some course choices that you might have made over your 4 years, or a funky grade that happened. Anything that sort of would bring a question mark to an admissions officer's mind, we want to address that. And this would be the place to do it. You have 650 words, plenty of space. You might even bullet point it, and we'll talk about what you might want to write there. Today is not the day to spend any time on the writing section, because that is a completely different topic, and we will work on that together. We're not going to talk about courses and grades right here because so few colleges require it, but there are some colleges that have decided that instead of getting a transcript from you, what they really want you to do is tell them everything that's on your transcript. It saves them a lot of wear and tear and labor on their end. And so there are going to be some colleges likely on your list that are going to have you do that. But it's not going to be everybody, and we'll work through it when we get there. Okay, so that is the application itself. It's fairly straightforward. Your assignment is going to be to complete it, everything except the writing. And then I'm going to take a look at it. We'll talk about that in a second, but we're going to add a college now, a caveat. On August 1st, when everything rolls over, you will lose every college that you add. So we're just doing this as kind of a placeholder so I can show you the process. But I do want you not to answer any college specific questions, because those are questions from the previous application cycle. So the way to add a college to your application is you click on college search, type in the name of a school, and I'm going to type in Bucknell just for fun. You'll see the college comes up and you click on the add college. If you just want to see it, you can click on the hyperlink that's here, but I want to add it to my list of schools. There's a limit to how many schools you can add. It's 20. And if you get to that point, it'll tell you you've reached your limit and you have to get rid of one. So now I'm going to go over to the My Colleges tab, and Bucknell should be there. You'll see it there as the second choice. So what I'm going to do is open up this particular part, and this is now we've entered the college specific part of the application. So what you're going to find here is a huge amount of information on the school, everything you might want to know about it, including its application deadlines. And we've talked about this too, so this will look a little bit familiar if you remember from the coaching session on recommendations. Here are the recommendations that Bucknell requires. 1 required teacher evaluation, 2 optional, and 0 other required evaluations, but 5 optional. And it will tell you, okay, we are going to require that you include the Common App personal essay for us, and we have some additional writing. Hold up, additional writing. Yep. So we may have talked about this, and I want to make sure that we cover this, that there are going to be colleges that ask you beyond the Common App personal essay to write them more information about yourself. So you'll find it either here under questions, and this is all of the questions that Bucknell wants you to answer, and they've put their writing right here. But you also might find it kind of tucked in after this review and submit Common App. And let's just look. So here Carnegie Mellon has done that, right? They've got their kind of regular questions here. And then they've said, we're going to be right up front. We're going to ask you to write more stuff for us. And so here are the supplements. And what's interesting about this is when you submit for a school like this, you will finish the Common App student information. Then you will come and finish these college specific questions. You will then submit this, and then it will have you submit the supplementary questions separately. Why? I don't know. It seems more complicated than it should be, but that's the process. For Bucknell, you will finish the Common App student information. You will come in and answer the questions that Bucknell wants you to answer, and then you will review and submit the common application. It will get familiar to you, and you won't do this by yourself. There will be, as part of our get-togethers, you and I will meet separately for a submission meeting so that you get familiar with doing this, and we'll submit them together so that you don't have any questions about how it works. Okay, there's this weird thing below this questions area called recommenders and FERPA. What the heck's that? So when you do the common application, you're going to invite all the teachers that you want, or the other people, the pastors, the bosses that you want to write recommendations for you. And the Common App's going to email them. So you'll have a whole list of them. And then when you get here, you're going to assign them to each school. So you'll have a short list of recommenders, and you're going to decide, well, which recommender do I want Bucknell to receive? So this is where you do that. You invite the counselor, and you invite the teacher, and you invite the recommenders. So this is where that happens. But before you can do that, you have to fill out what's called the FERPA release authorization. And that just essentially says, I allow the common application to deliver my personal information to the college. And also I waive my right to look at any of the recommendations that are going to be written before they go. And those are things you're going to want to do. And you'll notice this green check here. This green check has to be here before you can submit your applications. Okay, so on August 1st, you will roll your account over. We'll do that together. You will add your colleges, and you will go through the FERPA process. Here's a key piece to this that I want you to do today while you're working on your Common App. I want you to come down to the bottom of this page where it says invite advisor. And I want you to click it, and I want you to put my email address in here, my first and my last name. And you're like, wait, what email address? So the information for this is in the assignment that you'll have in your to-do list, but it's collegemadeclear@gmail.com. And then it'll give you how to spell my first and last name. And then I want you to invite me. And the purpose of this is that way I can look at your Common Application entries without you having to have me log in with your password, which I won't do because I don't want to worry about accidentally changing something on your application. Or you having to save PDFs of every page, which is a huge pain. So you're going to go through this invite advisor. And then there's one last step, and that is enable a preview. And enabling preview means I can look at your application just as you're looking at it this way. So let's talk about the other way you can look at your information. So we're back at the Common App tab. And here it gives you this preview button. If you wanted to show me one page at a time, I don't recommend it, but we could do it. This is what you would do. Click on the preview section and you're able to see the version that they have, that the colleges will see, and you can print it. Well, when you print, you can also just save it as a PDF. That's one of your options. And actually for the activities section, I recommend that you save it as a PDF when you share it with me, because it'll make it easier for me to edit for you. And that's what this will look like. It's also a really great way to just get a sense of what is this going to look like when the colleges see it and confirm the order in which you've placed them. Okay, so that is the Common Application. And you're welcome to ask questions about this if you want, and we can walk through it. But I want you to take a stab at this first to kind of see how things are going to work. So let's go back here. Talked about this preview option where you can click the button and see a preview, save it as a PDF or print it. If you have any questions about that, just let me know. You can do that through each of the sections that you work through in the student information part. All right, so here's your homework. You are going to look at your to-do items and you're going to create a Common App account if you didn't do it while we were talking. You are going to gather materials to complete the application, and a list of materials is available to you in your College Made Clear account under the Common Application folder. So there's a bunch of information there right now. Then I'm going to have you complete the profile, family, education, testing. Remember, you're going to skip that. I recommend it. And the activities section. When you're finished, you are going to go in and add a college, complete the FERPA authorization, and invite me as an advisor, and then enable the preview. Then final step is you're going to text me, because that's when I'll know I can go in and take a look. I'm also going to add an item where you're going to include the activities as a PDF and upload it to your College Made Clear account. So remember, there's a bunch of information in your Common App folder in the Files section. You can always come back to this YouTube recording. There will be a coaching session notes for today with more information. And you can always text me with questions. In your Common App folder, in the Files section, will be a list of the materials you should gather before you get started, a worksheet for gathering the high school information, a dictionary of terms used by the Common App, a guide to completing the activities portion of the Common App, and a sample of how to write the activities section so that you can see a variety of different kinds of activities and how sample students are treated in that way. So my goal for you is to complete your account in the next week, and text me by the 30th of June so that we can move on to the next phase of things. All right, that's everything I wanted you to know about the Common Application and about applications in general. I wish you luck with your work on this. Text me with any questions, and I will see you all soon.